luck can be a number of things. It's what you actually do with what the resources that you actually have, and become resourceful with what you've got. So when we talk about these pit girls or these walk-on girls and the darts and everything, they've used their resources cleverly and luckily, because they were born with those assets, which they've chosen to use to be able to get themselves ahead. They've got no ambition to become a CEO of a business. Their ambition was to travel the world or to do what they wanted to do. So, in terms of success, the first thing I think you've got to be is you've got to actually love what you do. You've got to be passionate about what you do. You've got to have a purpose for what you do. All right? You've got to position in the right cell. I do cover this in Diamond Status Dynamics, guys. So if you want
although I do say passion is not necessarily necessary. In fact, sometimes it is a determinant of failure. Why? Because business is about logic, and wherever you bring in emotion, you have very poor business. So we're going to.
I think passion and emotional intelligence are two very different things here,
yes.
Theo.
Well,
all right, because the thing is, I think you're combining the two here.
Enormous energy to succeed, yes, but remember passion. For instance, when you're setting up business and you say, "I love doing this, I love doing that," a restaurateur, for instance, they say, "Well, I have to give my clients the best possible food because I'm passionate about it." Those people will fail. But we need to talk about that another time. Talking about the ism.
Before you go, because the thing is, I need to clarify this actually. When I say passion, you see what passion will do, and I think you're right. I think you can actually get overwhelmed with passion, but you've got to have passion, because the thing is, passion is what gives you the energy to actually keep on moving you forward.
No, that's an ethos. So if you have an ethos of working hard, whatever you're doing.
No, it's just not ethos. You've got to enjoy what you do. You've got to have a passion for it.
Enjoying.
Look, I like rugby. I didn't like football. I was better at rugby than I did at football. I pushed myself more at rugby than I did at football.
We need to differentiate. You see, you've got to differentiate greatly about just doing a job, a career, and setting up your own business. Absolutely right. If you're a doctor, by all means, you should be passionate about it. Why? Because then you can be abused by the system and you'll still keep going because you're passionate about it. Setting up a business, no passion. It's all logic. So you need to be very careful about where you apply your passion.
Thing is about putting the right team around you to actually build that business, because you can't do it alone.
Okay.
Because let's face it, I remember when I first started my first business after I left full-time employment, I had absolutely no passion for doing my figures. So I had to get a bookkeeper to be able to do that. If I wasn't dumping it onto my wife, which is what I would often do.
So let's differentiate passion in terms of doing a job or a career where there is structure around you and you're not running the business. Will help you succeed. It'll also encourage you to put up with lots of abuse, because of course it's not logical to put up with abuse, but passion will carry you through it. Doesn't mean it's good for you, but passion in a business is markedly bad for the business.
Actually, I think we're going to have to disagree there. I think you got to have a level. You got to have passion for what you're actually going to do. Because I'll tell you something, it'll be a very boring, unhappy existence if you are not passionate about working as an accountant and you start, for example, and you're working as an accountant. No, anything.
But that is you working in your job.
I'll give you an example. Let me give you a quick example, because you've worked in a number of hospitals. There's a reason why I do not watch any hospital shows. I've never watched ER. I've never watched Casualty. I've never watched none of these, because I don't like hospitals. I've got no passion for that. So if I had the aptitude, let's say, for being a doctor, but I've got no passion for it, I'd lead a very miserable existence.
I've very carefully differentiated exactly the point, Andy. So you need to focus here. I've said that when you're working within a structure, you must be passionate in it because you'll enjoy it more and you'll probably do better. If you're setting up a business, you need clear, cold logic.
Okay, you did say that. You did say that.
Because so therefore, it's very important that we use our words carefully. And entrepreneurs actually mustn't be passionate. They simply must have endless psychopathic energy to But to work in a career and where there's a structure around you, by all means, absolutely, and it'll be more pleasurable.
You did say that, and it's not that I didn't hear it, I didn't listen to it. Maybe I was being a little bit too passionate.
Well, there you go. You see, passionate takes away the hearing. But focusing on isms for a second, you see, we
actually, that's what it does, though. Actually, no, just before you go there.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one thing what passion does sometimes. It makes you not see certain things, and I will say that because there's something I once heard many years ago. The only thing worse than going in the wrong direction is going off in the wrong direction enthusiastically, because you actually can't see the flaws.
You go further along in the wrong direction. Well, beautifully put, and great, very good comeback. But one of the things I want to bear in mind is we were talking about the fundamental mistake that the isms, the identitists make, where they seek a qualitative outcome, because what they do is their fundamental tenet of an identitist is that we're all the same, and that is the fundamental error of Marxism and communism, because of course identitists are simply neo-Marxists, and that's why Marxism and communism will always fail, because the number one thing is we're not the same, and therefore a qualitative outcome is fundamentally undesirable.
Because, I mean, let's face it, you show me any
we have the same rights.
Is there any communist regime that's ever really been successful?
There's never been a purely communist regime. Not in the history of mankind has communism actually functioned in its pure state.
Okay, let's talk about God, I can't even say it. Totalitarian. So you look at these totalitarian regimes. I mean, which is what Russia was in the Soviet era, and how that totally crumbled. And you look at somewhere like Venezuela, who over 80% of the people are actually are starving right now. I think the average person over there has lost about 7 kilos in weight just through starvation.
And the danger of communism is that it is acquisitive. The ethos of communism is that it believes that everyone in the world should be communist. So it's a bit like Islam, where the tenet of Islam is that everyone should be Muslim, because actually their belief is that everyone is born Muslim. They just lose the faith. So that if there is a convert, that it's actually inaccurate to say convert, it's a revert. So a Christian or anybody else will revert to Islam.
That's correct. I have heard that before, because you've said it on a previous podcast, maybe.
But the same with communism. The danger with communism, you see, is that they can't sit alone and behave themselves. They believe in making the whole world communist.
And this is why I have a problem with the EU, and I think this is why it's become so unsuccessful, is because they're looking to slip socialism straight under basically in front. They're hiding in plain sight, in effect. And the hierarchy between what is the EU right now in terms of where we are, or where the average person is, the gap has just got wider and wider and wider, and there's no competent understanding of the needs of the people who are living normal lives, to the decisions that are being made so high up.
Well, the difficulty is it's the EU as a result of some very senior dysfunctional individuals, and of course, as we've already said, very senior people are often psychologically dysfunctional, and fundamental tenets of errors. So, for instance, you can by all means have an economic union, but you cannot have a union of identity, because all the countries have their own identities, and if you play with it too much, then you will destroy a country.
Do you know, it was actually interesting, because we were talking about likeability earlier, and in the UK, even in the States, if you're listening in the States, you will have known about Nigel Farage, because he's actually very much he's actually talked, I think, on Donald Trump's stage over there. But for years, Nigel Farage said that Britain were going to come out of the EU, and people laughed at him. They saw him as a clown. But the problem is that it wasn't so much the message he was saying was wrong, but the messenger, because he just wasn't likable. He didn't know how to get along with people. He just became far too aggressive. So he alienated people rather than actually look for the best solution. And so he just constantly antagonized, he constantly fought against these people. Yes, he can come around and say, I told you so. And that's exactly what has happened, because people aren't laughing at him anymore. Yet, at the time, because he wasn't likable enough, people didn't listen to his message. And that's the problem. All these geniuses who've come out and said things that at the time were dismissed because they weren't influential enough to be able to actually get that message across or get people to buy into that message. And likability has a lot to do with that. So if you want to become successful, one of those major categories is that you are likable. And there, as I said, you can download the contact me. We'll put it on the podcast. I'll put it up actually in the next couple of days.
And of course, the EU is not likable. So countries don't like the EU.
No, most people would rather. The thing is, I think countries are losing their identity, but I say that, and some lefty out there, shock horror, will probably call me a nationalist. Sorry, not even a nationalist, a white nationalist.
No, but what is power? A large part of power is having your identity, and that's why America is surviving as well as it does, because it has the Constitution, whereas Britain doesn't.
No, and that's true. But actually, the UK does have it does have its identity in some ways, because the thing is we've got a much bigger history than the Americans as well. So we do have a lot of.
But it's not respected, is it?
Not anymore. We're losing that because of the element of immigration. It used to be. I mean, then for guys, immigration did not start because there was a war in Syria. It started long before that, and we never had a problem. I mean, you go up towards where the Northolt's RAF base is, and right next to there you got the Polish War Memorial. Things like this.
I mean, it's one of the great things about the royal family. It's a big part of British tradition and identity.
German tradition. I mean, German-British tradition. Yeah, because that came from the House of Hanover. So there is
Greek blood in it, isn't there? But
Prince Philip. Yes.
So it is tradition and heritage. Very, very important. And of course, the royal family are well aware of this. They do not allow any Muslim infiltration, and they don't allow any non-Protestant infiltration, which is why Meghan Markle was made to convert.
You could have just said non-Protestant rather than actually bringing the Muslim element in there. But
because there is, of course.
Well, there was the whole Princess Diana Dodi thing. Really, that was actually a big.
So they're very politically correct by allowing a non-white person into the royal family, but at the same time they're very clear about their rules and their religion. And
a non-white person. Hold on a second. Meghan Markle is a half caste, is she not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Let's not say half caste. That's so on PC.
That's why I said
mixed
non-white.
race. Mixed race. There we are. She's mixed race.
So they're very clever in showing how up to date they are. But ultimately,
by drip feeding it in slowly.
But ultimately, what they're saying is stick to our rules, end our religion.
But the thing is, any sort of change that people do, and this is where leftists actually get this so wrong. Any level of change has got to be able to be drip fed into the system, because the thing is, it's got to be able to adjust. Anything. You talk about that. There's this whole analogy about you put a frog into a pot of hot boiling water, it'll jump straight out again. Not necessarily true, but it'll jump straight out again, because the thing is, the change in environment's too rapid.
We're going to have to talk about how societies function.
Hold on a second, I haven't finished this one yet, because but the thing is, if you actually put the frog into some cold water and heat it up slowly, what's going to actually happen is it'll actually stay there and enjoy its little bubble bath or jacuzzi before it actually then fries or cooks.
Boils.
Anyway, guys,
so we're going to
finish off here?
Well, we're going to talk about, because you bring in a very important thing in how societies function. So we're going to bring that in, but on another podcast. But one of what we have said is one of the important things in succeeding is fitting in. So you've got to fit into your environment. And if you don't like it, don't make a fuss. Change. Go to an environment where you do fit in. Very important. So when people say stand up for your thoughts and whatever, no. If they're vastly different to your environment that you find yourself in, make sure you fit in. or change to an environment which shares your thoughts.
Find an environment that you're going to thrive in, by the way. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. We're running out of time. We will speak to you next week. Hopefully we can continue this conversation. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.